wanted to explain this section of the sleeve because I found it difficult to work out, and I found it difficult to write the instructions. So I thought I'd just do a little video to help if anyone else has got limited spatial awareness like me. So you've followed all the instructions, lined the bodice, done the sleeve lining, joined the sleeves to the yoke, and then you've joined the bodice section to this. So you've got still some open seams here on the side of the sleeves, and what we need to do now is finish underneath this sleeve. So it's a tiny bit tricky, probably not that much, but it just gives a really beautiful finish underneath the sleeve. So it says to take, well, the way I've written the instructions is take the front of the sleeve. So you're looking at the front of the bodice. You're taking the front, opening it up. So you've got the sleeve and the lining, and then finding the back section, matching up the seam line there. So you've got the two sleeve sections here, and then the two lining sections there. So I'll show you that again. So you've got the sleeve, go to the front, lay it out flat. It is joined to the bodice, so you don't have too much room. Match up the seam, which is the linings, to the sleeve, and then you're joining the front and the back. So I would pin, making sure that that lining seam is facing the same way. Pin there, and this is the sleeve section. And then the lining section. And so then you just need to stitch 1 centimetre along there. Okay, so you've sewn in a 1 centimetre seam allowance, the sleeve and the lining, and then flip it out. So that you can see now, here's the sleeve, and underneath is a really beautiful, clean finish. That will make more sense when you're actually stitching it yourself. And now we need to do the side seam. So not the angled section. I'm sure these are not the technical terms for all of this, but if you've got the right sides together, this is the back, this is the lining, so inside. We've got underneath the sleeve and the angled section. In order to get the neatest possible finish here, we have to do this side seam first. So this is the top version, but if you're doing the dress version, you just need to be mindful of the pockets and finishing the edges however you put pockets in, but I always overlock first. But with the top version, we can just do the 1 centimetre seam allowance and then overlock it. Okay, so you have done the 1 centimetre seam allowance and finished however you finish your seams. I overlock, and now we've only got one seam left to do. So if this is the wrong side, this is the back, we have to join the angled section of the bodice, which is here, to the angled section of the sleeve and the lining. So with everything joining up and all of the seams facing the correct way, should have given that a press actually. We're going to match up that with that. that point meets. And this is where this leaving of this 1 centimetre seam allowance before is really important, because you've come in 1 centimetre there, in 1 centimetre there, and then they all meet up at this point. So you find exactly where that stitch is, and that's the bit, where you have to hit that stitch so that you get a beautiful seam with the 3, the bodice and the sleeve and the yoke all joining together. So then you can just pin that along there. And then again on this side you're matching up where all those 1 centimetres were left. You're finding that stitch point, and that's where you're going to run along here, and you're going to hit that stitch point right there for a perfect union of all of the seams. And then once you've stitched with the 1 centimetre seam allowance, matching up this sleeve as well, then you can overlock. And just to show you that 3-point seam that I was talking about, which is why it's really important to leave the 1 centimetre seam allowance, is it's coming from the yoke, the bodice and the sleeve to get that point, which is why you've really got to hit the stitching that the stitches that you started with. And then that's the that's the seam that you've just done, and then that's the beautiful finish of the sleeve and the lining there underneath the arm, all enclosed. And then just the bottom hem to go.